Hey guys, what's up? This is SubLBC here doing a quick little bonus video. I know that there were a couple of people who had requested that I do a little bit of a video tutorial on how to basically take down an AC unit and how to do some basic maintenance, basically things that you want to look for, especially when you're running portable air conditioning units. The maintenance that I'm doing here is not really that incredibly important for box units. Generally, in my experience, box units can go pretty much more or less unmaintenanced for a pretty damn long time. There are some things that have to be done, annual things, but I find that portable ACs definitely need a lot more maintenance, especially if they're going to be running their evaporative function, or if they are an evaporative capable unit. So basically this here is the Seoul US LX140, and this is the original portable air conditioner that I was using all the way back in the day, the original grow that I ever did, Blue Dream Indoor Cannabis Grow #1. And yeah, so this is essentially Seoul US's flagship unit. I believe it is the highest BTU for portable that at least they make. I know that there are a couple other consumer grades that go maybe up to 15K, and then there's of course some prosumer or more professional style portables that might be able to exceed that a little bit, but they work a lot more efficiently and they actually give you a lot more cooling power. But essentially all the the semantics aside, this is more or less an available flagship model that most people can use for growing, and it generally works really well for up to about a 4,000 watt setup. Of course, with appropriate air cooling, you can use one of these to cool even a larger room, such as what was demonstrated in the Epic 6K. But this one here does have a lot of mileage on it, and it does have to be maintenance. This is now the second time I'm tearing it down, and the major problem with this one here is essentially the evaporative function. That more than likely is going to be the thing you're going to deal with the most. So the first thing is really knowing how to take down the AC unit, and this is really easy. If you take a look over here, you'll notice here on the sides there's these screw holes that match up with screw holes here. On the LX140, it's actually the back plate that comes off first, and this here is the actual back plate. This is the model number and all of the information for all you guys that care. And essentially you want to take out all 3 screws on each side. There's 3 on each side, and then you want to go ahead and take off these 2 screws here at the top and go ahead and just set those aside. Those are essentially the enclosure screws, and I just kind of keep them over there in a little grouping. In fact, I don't even have the 2 top screws anymore because this thing's been opened and closed so many times, they just got lost, and to be terribly honest, they're not necessary for an AC this old. But you really want to get right to the meat of the unit right away. So once you remove the back plate, you now have to deal with the front plate, and it's really important that you disconnect all of the electrical connections that essentially are here on the interface. The interface essentially connects to the unit. You'll notice that each one of these plugs here is totally different, and most AC unit manufacturers will do this on purpose. This of course will guarantee that when you put the unit back together again, that you can't make any type of mistake putting one of these in the wrong thing. You'd have to try really hard to get it wrong. But yeah, you just go ahead and basically detach those from the circuit board that you're going to find here on top. You can see there's one goes there, and then I think one goes right there on the side, and then there's like another one right back there. So yeah, that's really simple. Obviously make sure power is disconnected before you do any of this stuff, and then you want to get to the meat of what your problem is. Now you'll notice here that there's actually some floating water here in the bottom. That's kind of a problem. The way these things basically work is that as the compressor turns on, and obviously this thing starts cooling down the room, there's a lot of water and condensation that's going to build up like on this radiator, and then that stuff just drips down. It gets collected into a pool tray, like a pool of water in this little tray, and then as that water level raises, you'll notice there's a little tiny float valve right here, and when that water level comes up, it hits this switch, and then this switch here will then trigger this water pump to then pump the water back up this tube to the top, essentially reintroducing it to its source. And as this continuously goes on and on and on, the water is being exposed to this one area, and it evaporates and evaporates, and the process just repeats itself with a pretty decent buffer, here to contain the water. And the thinking is that when the AC is able to, not collect so much humidity, not working in an overdriven mode all the time, eventually the water will just all evaporate, and then the AC can pretty much run continuously without having to deal with water drainage. But the way the system is designed is that if the pool of water here does start to exceed what the tray can hold, then it will go ahead and flow to the rear where this little exit nipple is, and you just connect a rubber tube to that, and then you can lead the drainage water any other place you want, assuming of course that the exit is lower in elevation than the actual unit, because gravity is important. Things to look out for, though, unfortunately, is that as this evaporative function continues and continues and continues, the water isn't exactly flowing in the cleanest of places. It's pretty nasty in here, with all the dirty air. Even though there are filters with continuous use, there's just a lot of buildup of shit inside of this AC unit. So obviously, as the water evaporates, all that shit gets left behind, and a lot of it will collect actually down here in the pool. So the biggest problem this will cause is, number one, the water will not actually flow out the back. And as this water level becomes untenable by the unit, the LX140 will specifically, throw out a warning light and will disable the compressor. And this has happened twice. And it's kind of a segue into the future video I'm doing here at the Moneymaker, dealing with some of the issues I've been dealing with. But, it's important to know that, for some reason, this AC just stops pissing water when normally it does. And the environment has not changed, to justify that. There's a very good chance this thing could be plugged up, and you're gonna have to, disassemble it like I'm gonna do here, and then basically use a shop vac, suck out all the water, and then go in and try to clean the entire base of the tray. And it's kind of weird. There's actually a wall, somewhat of a barrier wall, like a dam essentially, that separates this half of the pool of water over from this half where the water comes out. And they actually have one section of the wall that's just, has an opening where the water is supposed to flow, kind of like a bottleneck, a little narrow wedge where the water goes, but that tends to clog up. So that's probably my main culprit, stopping the water from coming in here, or out of here I should say. And of course you also want to check that it's completely clean throughout, because the hole inside the nipple is not that terribly large and can of course also be gunked up. So want to stick like a hanger rod in there, or just anything to clean it out, or use some high pressure canned air and just blast the crap out of it. But it's really important that you clean out the bottom of this tray. But in order to do that, there's one other thing that you're going to have to do, and this kind of leads me into the more important gist of the video, and that is actually dealing with the water pump assembly itself. So when this thing is installed, you'll notice that there's a big square kind of frame where this thing is supposed to mount, and it does have its own screw which goes right here. And although it does have plastic clips on the right hand side, you do actually have to undo this screw right here in the front to get this thing out. It's not just a plastic clip alone. But I do recommend that if you are going to be working on this thing a lot and you're not going to be transporting it, or laying it on its side, or shocking the unit at all, you can probably just take out these inner screws and work with the clip frame alone. That way you can get the pump out way quicker and a lot easier. But you can see here that obviously with all the buildup, you can just see the amount of sludge and crap that's basically accumulated on this thing. So the first things first, we're just gonna have to completely clean out this this pump, and then after that we'll have to go in and get all this water out of here, and then also make sure to mind this tube. Now for all of you techno geeks out there who have the appropriate equipment, like a small power supply or whatever, may not be a bad idea either, just to connect the power supply to this thing to see if the pump actually continues to function. You could basically get like a small thing of water or whatever just to set it in, and then connect it with this part up here disconnected to see if it actually flows water. And if it doesn't, I'm pretty sure that this part here can be replaced as a single part from Seoul US, and obviously installing a replacement would not be that terribly difficult. But just for basic maintenance sake though, you want to disconnect the tube here, and then rinse all that sludge and crap off of the pump. The other thing you want to check out also is to make sure the float valve is working properly, that it's not stuck or doesn't get stuck, so as the water level raises, it actually can work this switch. And if you've got a shop vac nearby, you can just actually pour water right here through the side, watch that thing raise up, and the float should actually get high enough to flip that switch. And if it doesn't, you might have to make some micro adjustments, bending this just a little bit to make sure that when the water level does reach its terminus, that switch will definitely be thrown. If it doesn't, it won't activate the pump, and then the evaporative function of your AC will basically be null. So those are the real important things to look at. As far as other things you might also want to check out is I've noticed that on all portables at some time, you know, because of the amount of water they run up and down the radiator. And if they tend to, you know, flood at least once or twice in their lifetime, the bottom of the radiator function will actually start to, you know, erode. And, you know, obviously this is done from water damage, and water gets on there, and it just starts to corrode and, you know, basically turn like into kind of a weird dust. And that shit, of course, falls right into the water and can clog things really, really bad. Because essentially you're dealing with oxidized metals that are just falling right into the tray, and they do clump up and coagulate quite a bit. And I would not imagine that they, you know, really are, you know, friendly with this pump either. You know, the pump mechanism pumping all that crap up and down, you know, obviously causes problems. So you want to go in there and try to cut away or just strip away as much of that crap as possible, bust out the shop vac, you know, really, really clean this thing out. If you are hardcore, you can go as far as to undo all the screws and actually pull the entire water tray out in its entirety. But I have not done this because it does require a lot of disassembly, and you know, so far I just try to deal with the problem areas that I can. You know, like I said, that little bridge gap between the two areas, as well as making sure water gets out the back, and in doing the best I can to deal with the pump. But you know, considering the radiator damage and the fact that the pump may not even function anymore, this Solus unit is just going to be sent right back to the manufacturer. They do have a repair site in Walnut, which is like just a little over 20 miles away from here, which is a great advantage for me, you know, so they can take this thing right in, service it without shipping, and I get it back in a relatively quick amount of time. And not only do they replace the issues that I've shown here, but you know, they might be able to Freon boost it, and you know, maybe do a lot of other things that I may have overlooked. Because you know, again, guys, I'm not like an air conditioned technician by any means, but do have a little bit of experience doing this kind of work. So that is basically it for this bonus video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We are going to be doing a video update here from the nursery, and then after that, taking a look at dealing with some of the issues at Site B because of this recent heat wave. So definitely stick around, guys. Thanks for watching.